Julia Angwin, Dragnet Nation, A Quest for Privacy, Security, and Freedom in a World of Relentless Surveillance. In a world where technology has made it increasingly easy for governments and companies to gather and store data on individuals, Dragnet Nation by Julia Angwin examines privacy, security, and freedom in a world of relentless surveillance. This intricately woven narrative follows the institutions involved in collecting data, the legalities and effects of surveillance, as well as the impact of living in a surveillance society on our lives. Furthermore, Angwin discusses how data is collected and used, while also offering insight into ways individuals can take control of their information.
The Modern Espionage Age. Espionage was once an affair concerning only heads of state, but technology has made it possible for anyone to be spied on, at any time. The decline in data storage costs has enabled governments and companies to accumulate vast amounts of personal information, with the likes of the National Security Agency, NSA, collecting data on ordinary people in the United States. Meanwhile, local and state governments employ surveillance tools like automated license plate readers to monitor citizens' movements. Companies, such as AT&T and Verizon, trade your location data, while advertisers track your online behavior and retailers use facial recognition to record your purchases. This new reality of constant surveillance should be considered a legitimate concern to everyone. Privacy erosion, loopholes and consequences. Although laws are in place to protect personal data from potential abuse, legal loopholes allow data to be exploited. The difficulty in tracking and deleting this data means that determined individuals can access it. The cases of Liam Ewens and the invasive use of school-provided MacBooks demonstrate the ease of spying on others, often with devastating consequences. These incidents highlight the urgent need for better data protection and awareness. While there are laws to safeguard the privacy of personal information, they are often undermined by loopholes. One key issue is the difficulty in tracking where your data is stored, rendering it practically impossible to request its deletion across every database. This vulnerability allows those seeking your information, whether for professional or malicious reasons, to find ways to access it. A tragic example is the case of Liam Ewens, who was able to gather sensitive information about a woman he obsessed over simply by paying an online data broker. Subsequently, he committed murder and took his own life. Spying has become so effortless that even non-tech-savvy individuals can partake in it. In 2009, a high school's technicians installed spying software on students' school-provided laptops. Unbeknownst to them, the software could activate webcams and secretly take thousands of photographs. This invasion of privacy led to an embarrassing accusation against a student and others leaving the institution altogether. Such cases underline the pressing need for enhanced measures and heightened awareness to protect data and individual privacy. Under watchful eyes. The prospect of being constantly watched can immensely impact our daily lives, even without a repressive regime. Our thoughts and behaviors change as we begin living in a state of fear or paranoia, a consequence we need to reflect upon before mindlessly giving away our personal freedoms. By examining the East German Stasi's psychological impact and Finnish research on surveillance's effects on participants' behavior, we uncover unsettling truths behind the constant monitoring of individuals and emphasize the importance of privacy in our lives. Imagine a world where strangers monitor your every move through surveillance cameras in your own home, or when you notice someone persistently following you on the street. It's not only fear and anger you would feel, but also a strong sense of anxiety around your own actions and decisions. We have come to understand that being spied on has considerable effects on our thoughts and behavior, illustrating how living in a society under constant surveillance can negatively impact our lives. Take the Stasi, East Germany's former secret police force, for example. As the largest secret police organization per capita in history, the Stasi had files on over 4 million citizens. Tellingly, 1 in 50 East Germans were involved with the Stasi themselves. This widespread surveillance unsurprisingly led to a culture of fear. In a post-East Germany survey, 43% of its former citizens agreed that they felt under constant scrutiny and could not trust anyone. This deep connection between surveillance and psychological impact was further supported by a Finnish research study in 2011. In this experiment, participants knew they were being monitored by researchers, with the option to turn off cameras and microphones at any time, yet displayed altered behavior, such as moving sensitive conversations to different rooms, inviting friends over less frequently, and experiencing general annoyance and anxiety. These examples emphasize that our lives can be easily affected by the knowledge that we are being watched, to the point where we forfeit essential personal freedoms. It is crucial for us to not only be aware of who is collecting data and what they are doing with it, but also to understand the significant consequences of being monitored and its insidious impact on our mental and emotional well-being. The birth of Dragnet Nation. The U.S. government, specifically the National Security Agency, NSA, has become a major player in the surveillance game, and the 9/11 terrorist attacks were the catalyst for this transformation. In response to these attacks, traditional intelligence methods were deemed insufficient, leading to NSA Director Michael Hayden approving warrantless phone call interceptions connected to known terrorists. With the backing of President George W. Bush, this program grew into a massive domestic spying operation. The NSA's actions exist in a legal gray area as they exploit loopholes in the law, such as the abuse of metadata, data about data. Although the agency argues it isn't violating citizens' privacy, critics assert that metadata tracking represents a massive breach of privacy. Rise of cookie-powered ads. In the early 1990s, as software market growth slowed, Silicon Valley companies turned to online advertising for revenue. The dot-com bubble burst seemed to kill the industry, but then cookies came to the rescue. These small data files, installed on computers upon visiting a website, allow companies to track user activity and auction this information to advertisers targeting specific consumer interests. This resulted in the birth of a new industry that collects, sells personal data, and fuels targeted advertisements. Cookies-powered ads, emerging from user behavior profiles, soared in popularity, becoming the new oil of the internet. Balancing privacy in a digital world. In today's digital age, maintaining absolute privacy is near impossible, but making a conscious effort to protect your personal data can go a long way. Although completely erasing your digital footprints is challenging, adopting a surveillance flexitarian approach can help you safeguard your privacy to a reasonable extent. This involves taking small, manageable steps like using cash payments and being cautious with social media and cell phone usage. While these efforts might require some sacrifices, they enable you to protect your privacy while still enjoying the benefits of modern society. As much as we try to safeguard our private information, various data brokers still manage to collect and store personal data on almost everyone, with only a few allowing individuals to view, modify, or delete their records. Consequently, some try to erase their digital traces entirely, becoming surveillance vegans. These individuals make tracking their actions and movements extremely difficult, using tactics like paying in cash, maintaining multiple online identities, and keeping their living whereabouts a secret. However, such a lifestyle requires considerable effort and can strain professional and personal relationships. A more feasible approach is to be a surveillance flexitarian, where you take measured steps to protect your privacy without completely cutting off from the digital world. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution, but requires evaluating what aspects of your privacy matter most and finding a balance with your lifestyle's demands. Facebook is a prime example of this dilemma. The platform collects personal data to sell to advertisers, prompting some people to delete their accounts. This decision, however, comes at the cost of potentially losing out on networking opportunities and staying in touch with friends. Similarly, your cell phone can reveal abundant data about your habits and location. But for some, like parents with young children, being reachable at all times trumps the privacy concerns associated with cell phone use. Ultimately, navigating privacy in today's digital world is a balancing act, requiring conscious decisions and occasional sacrifices to protect your personal data while remaining connected to the modern world. Google's privacy dilemma. Although Google is not the worst offender in terms of data collection or abuse and strives for transparency regarding surveillance requests, it has a history of privacy violations. Google has been guilty of invading privacy by collecting personal information from Wi-Fi networks via its Street View camera cars. Gmail, their free email service, has also faced reports of privacy infringement. In light of these concerns, there are privacy-conscious alternatives such as DuckDuckGo, a search engine prioritizing zero data retention, and RiseUp, a secure email service fighting against government intrusion. Despite the closure of similar encrypted email services like LavaBit, RiseUp and other companies are determined to protect privacy and resist unwarranted surveillance. Balancing privacy and convenience. Preventing data tracking has become increasingly important in our digital age. One popular method is using encryption and ad-blocking software to keep your information secure. Services like Silent Circle offer encrypted messaging, phone, and video call capabilities, along with message deletion for a monthly fee. However, both users must have the app for it to work effectively. Another option is using browser add-ons, such as AdBlock Plus and NoScript on Firefox, which block advertisements and tracking cookies. NoScript goes a step further by preventing JavaScript and Flash without your permission, further enhancing privacy. While these measures can improve privacy, users must weigh the costs, including the possible inconvenience and changes to the user experience, before deciding upon the ideal balance between privacy and convenience.